Welcome back. Ayurveda, the Science of Life 101. We are in session 6, Agni, the digestive fire. So, up to now, we have mapped elements, doshas, and mental states. Today, we're going to anchor the system in one principle that sits at the center of both health and disease, Agni. In Ayurveda, Agni is not a metaphor, it is the organizing intelligence behind digestion and transformation. Whatever you take in, food, sensory input, experience, must be processed, broken down, and converted into something usable. If that process is steady, the system builds clarity and resilience. If it's impaired, the system accumulates residue and confusion. Agni refers to the totality of digestive and metabolic activity. At the most immediate level, it governs how food is broken down, absorbed, and assimilated. More broadly, though, it governs how impressions are processed, how the system extracts meaning from experience. When Agni is functioning well, input becomes nourishment. When it is impaired, input becomes burden. This is why Ayurveda places Agni at the center of clinical reasoning. You do not begin by chasing symptoms. You assess the state of digestion, its rhythm, its strength, its consistency. From there, everything else becomes interpretable. Strong Agni supports clarity. Weak or irregular Agni produces byproducts the system cannot fully process. Within Ayurveda, the branch most concerned with internal medicine is known as Kaya Chikitsa. Kaya refers to the body as a field of transformation, and Chikitsa is treatment. The primary instrument in that field is Agni. This matters because it sets the orientation. Treatment is not only about removing what is wrong, it is about restoring the capacity to process. If Agni is stable, many imbalances resolve with relatively simple adjustments. If Agni is unstable, even well chosen interventions do not land. So, before protocols or supplementation, before any complexity, the first question is, what is the state of the digestive fire? This is where the real clinical work of Ayurveda begins. Ayurveda is also direct on this point. When Agni is impaired, the disease process begins. This does not mean every symptom traces to one cause in a simplistic way. No, it means that impaired digestion, whether it's weak, excessive, or irregular, creates conditions the system cannot resolve cleanly. Material is taken in and not fully transformed. Residue remains. Over time, that residue accumulates and interferes with normal function. So rather than chasing each expression separately, Ayurveda asks you to look upstream. What is happening at the level of digestion? Is intake appropriate? Is processing complete? Is elimination clean? If those three are not aligned, the system will compensate. And those compensations, well, they become what we label as symptoms. At the physical level, Agni governs appetite, breakdown, absorption, and assimilation. A steady appetite that arrives at consistent times, a sense of hunger that is clear rather than urgent, and a feeling of satisfaction after eating without heaviness. These are simple indicators of functional Agni. Food is taken in, processed, and converted into usable energy. When Agni is compromised, the signs are also very straightforward: irregular hunger, bloating, gas, heaviness after meals, or a sense that food is sitting rather than moving through. The point is not to analyze every detail, it's to recognize the patterns. Does the system take in food and handle it efficiently, or does it struggle with the basic task of conversion? Ayurveda, though, extends this same principle well beyond food. Experiences, conversations, stressors, the sensory input is also taken in. They also require processing. If the system cannot digest them, they remain as impressions that continue to circulate. This can show up as rumination, reactivity, or tendency to revisit the same experience without resolution. In that sense, digestion of life is not a poetic add-on. It follows the same logic in Ayurveda. Intake must be processed, integrated, and released. When that does not happen, the mind carries what the system could not complete. So when assessing Agni, you are not only looking at meals, you are looking at how the person handles experience. Classically, Agni is described in functional patterns. The primary ones that you will work with are Samagni. This is balanced, steady digestion. Mandagni. This is slow, weak digestion. Tiksnagni. Sharp, excessive digestion. Visamagni. Irregular, unpredictable digestion. These are not labels for identity. They are descriptions of function. The same person can shift between these states depending on their diet, their routine, the stress they endure, or their environment. The value of these categories is very practical. They allow you to recognize the pattern in front of you and respond appropriately, rather than applying the same approach to every presentation. So let's look at Samagni. It refers to balanced digestion. Hunger is steady and appropriate. Meals are digested without discomfort. Energy is consistent rather than spiking and crashing. Elimination is regular and rather unremarkable. In this state, the system converts what it receives into nourishment with minimal residue. There is efficiency without strain, and this is your reference point. You are not aiming for perfection. You are recognizing what stable function looks like so you can measure deviation from it. When Samagni is present, interventions are minimal because the system is already doing what it is designed to do. The next one is Mandagni. It is slow or weakened digestion. Hunger may be low or inconsistent. After eating, there is heaviness, lethargy, or a sense of fullness that lingers a lot longer than it should. The system struggles to fully process what it has taken in. Over time, this leads to accumulation, and I'm not just talking about weight. Not everything is converted. Some of it remains partially processed. Clinically, this is where you begin to see buildup, both physically and mentally. The approach here is not to add more input, it's to support the fire so that what is already present can be handled more efficiently. So our next Agni is Tiksnagni. It's intense or overly sharp digestion. Hunger can be strong and frequent, sometimes urgent. Can we say hangry? Food is processed quickly, but the system can run hot. This may present as acidity, irritation, or a tendency toward inflammation. The issue here is not capacity, it's excess intensity. The fire is strong but not regulated, and over time, that intensity can deplete the system or create byproducts associated with heat. The response is not to push the system further, it's to moderate or to cool and create steadiness so the transformation remains efficient without becoming aggressive. Visamagni, it is irregular digestion. Hunger is unpredictable, sometimes strong, sometimes absent. Digestion can alternate between ease and discomfort. There may be gas, bloating, or inconsistency in elimination. This pattern reflects instability. The system does not maintain a steady rhythm, so input is handled differently from one time to the next. The priority here is regularity, consistent timing, consistent intake, consistent routine, so that the system can settle into a predictable pattern. Without rhythm, even good inputs are not processed reliably. Rather than memorizing categories, it's useful to recognize functional signs. Healthy Agni shows up as clear, appropriate appetite, digestion without heaviness or discomfort. You are stable across the day, and you have regular elimination without strain. There's nothing dramatic about it. In fact, that's the point. When digestion is working, it does not call attention to itself. The system does its job quietly. This becomes your baseline for comparison when you are assessing any imbalance. So let's look at imbalances and signs of impaired Agni. They will really present in very recognizable ways. You will either have irregular or just absent appetite. You can experience heaviness, bloating, or gas after eating. You might have sharp hunger with irritability or acidity and inconsistency of elimination. The specifics vary, but the pattern is clear. Intake is not being processed cleanly. Instead of being converted into energy, it lingers or is transformed in a way that produces discomfort. The goal is not to catalog system or symptoms endlessly. It's to identify the functional issue, how well the system is actually handling what it receives. Because when it does not handle what it receives and Agni is impaired, the system produces what Ayurveda calls ama. Ama is not a single substance. It is a category for what has not been fully digested or assimilated. It is the residue of incomplete processing. This can originate from food that was not properly broken down or from experiences that were not fully integrated. The common feature is that the system could not finish the task. Over time, ama accumulates and interferes with normal function. So when you are assessing Agni, you are also indirectly assessing the likelihood of the accumulation known as ama. As ama accumulates, it will begin to obstruct. Physically, this can look like heaviness, sluggishness, or congestion. Mentally, it can present as dullness or lack of clarity. The system is carrying material it has not resolved. This is why the emphasis is placed on digestion rather than only elimination. If processing is incomplete, the system is continuously generating more residue. So the work is not only to remove what has accumulated, but to restore the capacity that prevents accumulation from recurring. Interesting, when we look at dosha relation, Agni does not operate in isolation. It is indeed influenced by the doshas. Everything's connected. Vata can create irregularity, or Visamagni. Pitta can create excess intensity, or Tiksnagni. Kapha can create sluggishness, Mandagni. This is not theoretical, it is observable. The same person's digestion will shift depending on their doshic quality, whatever doshic quality is dominant at a given time. Recognizing this relationship allows you to interpret changes more accurately and respond with adjustments that address the underlying pattern. You see, Agni follows a rhythm. There are times of the day when digestion is naturally stronger and times when it is weaker. Aligning intake with these rhythms supports efficiency. Ignoring them creates strain. Irregular eating, skipping meals, eating late, or consuming large amounts when the system is not prepared disrupts the digestive process. Over time, this contributes to instability. So, alongside what you eat, when you eat becomes relevant. Consistency supports regulation. This is where you bring it into your daily life. Rather than applying abstract rules, you observe. When does hunger arise naturally for you? How do you feel after eating? Are you light, heavy? Are you neutral? Is energy steady or fluctuating? These are direct indicators of how your Agni is functioning. They do not require interpretation beyond paying attention. The system is already providing feedback. The task is simply to recognize it. How you eat influences digestion as much as what you eat. Eating while distracted, rushed, or under stress affects your processing. The system is divided between tasks. As a result, digestion is literally less efficient. A simple adjustment, sitting down, slowing down, and allowing attention to be on the meal supports Agni. This is not ceremonial, it is functional. When the system is oriented toward digestion, it performs better. So, quantity and timing matter. Overeating overwhelms Agni. Undereating weakens it. Irregular timing disrupts rhythm. The aim is not strict control. It is appropriate input at appropriate times. When hunger is present, the system is ready. When it is not, forcing intake creates strain. Over time, aligning quantity and timing with actual signals restores stability. Your mental state directly affects your digestion. Eating in a state of agitation or heaviness alters how food is processed. The same meal can be handled differently depending upon the state of the nervous system. That is why digestion is not purely mechanical, it is integrated. Body and mind are not separate processes. So, part of supporting Agni is also about stabilizing the mental state around your meals and throughout the day. So, I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes for a moment and take a big breath. Bring your attention to your abdomen. I don't mean analytically, just as a point of awareness here. Ask a simple question. How does my digestion feel today? Not in detail, but in the overall sense. Is it light? Is it heavy? Is it neutral? Is it unsettled? Let that first answer be enough. This is the beginning of you working with Agni. Not by forcing change, but by recognizing function. When you can accurately observe, you can respond appropriately. Without observation, intervention, frankly, they're guesses. Agni is not something you fix once. It's something you monitor and support over time. Small, consistent adjustments, timing, quantity, attention. They all have cumulative effects. So that's where we're going to leave it for today. See me in the next session where we move more directly into AMA and diagnostics and how to identify what has accumulated it and how it presents. See you in the next session.